have left the house before Mum and Dad got up.
I remember thinking, oh, it might not be too late.
I got into the office around 9 o'clock.
Hearing a woman's voice saying bus and bomb.
Not knowing was worse than finding out.
Multiple injuries, multiple casualties.
We played musical chairs for our lives that morning, but no one told us.
Mim was a freelance picture editor, and she was on her way to a meeting in Canary Wharf.
I was trying to make my way to Islington to a meeting, and when I got there the tube was closed at King's Cross.
Then we began to hear there were stories of some power surge on the tube.
I left a few calls for colleagues explaining I might be late, and the bus turned up pretty shortly afterwards.
My father had spoken to Mim on the phone when she was evacuated from King's Cross on her way south on the Northern Line. And they had agreed that she would go for a coffee somewhere and see how things panned out. But it seems that she just must have tried to get to her meeting in Canary Wharf and jumped on the first bus that would get her out of the area.
Her saying pushed past me, and the only reason I noticed him was other people who'd pushed past me had knocked into my bag with theirs, and actually he took care not to do that, so that was the only reason that I was really aware of his presence. The bag was at my eye level as we walked up the stairs.
She was sitting on the top deck.
He took the seat at the back of the bus and I took the first available seat, which was halfway down the bus.
It is probable that she was sitting directly in front of Hasib Hussein.
Just after 9:45, I was working at my laptop and suddenly everything changed colour. And then a fraction of a second later I heard this big bang and I realised that that change of colour was the pressure wave hitting my retina before I heard the bang. And then I suddenly thought, that's not a small bang, that's a big bomb.
She was thrown from the bus and her body landed next to Hasib Hussein's on the pavement directly outside the BMA.
You could see a huge amount of white smoke, part of the tree canopy gone, and you could still see coming down little bits of paper and bits of light debris, rather like leaves in the wind.
I think for the first few seconds I just thought I'd fainted.
I could see a bus without a roof, a top deck half collapsed. I could see bits of body parts.
The instinct, of course, was to look round, and I think that the first thing that immediately struck you was just, where is everything and everyone gone? It was so eerie that we'd been on a full bus and yet we couldn't see where anyone was anymore, and they'd all gone. It's the easiest way, the only way I can really describe it. The seats weren't there anymore, nothing was there anymore.
It was strangely quiet, but I could see people in the street. I could see a taxi at a crazy angle with a bit of bus roof by it. We could see people tending to people down in the street.
We know that within a minute of the explosion, an IT technician named Clive Featherstone was by Mim's side and holding her hand, taking our place where we would like to have been and reassuring her as much as he could. Clearly recognising, I suppose, that she was dying, also able to inform us that she had lost consciousness even at that point. And that was the start of part 2 of my life. I really do feel like there was a before and after. It doesn't define me, but it did change the course of my life.
I found 2 that I knew were probably not going to make it. They were moribund. They were still alive, they'd still got pulses. They were still breathing, but in a pattern that's traditional that you see just before death. They got very serious anatomical injuries, and any doctor, any nurse would know that that patient's not going to make it. I knew that they were 2 patients where we put a human being with them and make them comfortable. They're so deeply unconscious they don't need anything. They just need the dignity of a human being with them, so they're not alone.
I'd lost my front teeth and I'd lost my eardrums, so I couldn't hear properly. And I felt like I'd had a real whack to the back of my head, a really bad headache. But apart from that, I realised pretty quickly how lucky I'd been, and that actually in the grand scheme of things, I was going to be able to get out of there.
My father called me and explained in the most objective of terms that Mim's identification had been confirmed as one of the victims. And I just remember saying, okay, I understand. Within moments, I realised that I had no clue how to proceed from there. And so I remember calling back and saying, what happens next?
Your life from that moment on was defined by which seat you took, whether there was a seat left, which seats were left, whether you decided to go for a coffee, or whether you just tried to get yourself to work as quick as you could.
My feelings towards him personally, more than anything, is overriding pity. To be in the position where you feel compelled to commit such an act.
For that week, I just kept thinking, oh, that poor guy in front who got on the bus with me.
Really?
Yeah, the thought never occurred to me that it was him until they put the pictures up on the news.
The major factor that everybody has got here with Tavistock Square is whenever anybody talks about the 7/7 bombings, it's that bloody bus.
During the inquests, that image was on the news every night. And I think it was only after it ended and that image goes away a little bit that you actually realise how much of an impact that constant exposure to that image does actually have on you.
People would be grateful if we could move away from that bus image as being the icon of 7/7.
Oh, I don't sleep. I haven't slept for 5 years, not properly. I sleep in 2 or 3 hour shifts. I'm up every night between about 2 and 4 at least. That's a good night. I've not met anyone who still sleeps.